Good evening, everybody, and wherever you're watching, I hope you're all well. This is episode 4 of Meet the Judge, and tonight I'm joined by, at very short notice, and thank you, Jose. Tonight I'm joined by an All Breeds FCI judge who is very sought after around the world. He is one of the nicest judges to show under, always in good humor, and always very pleasant with the exhibitors. Hola, Jose.
Hello, how are you doing?
How are you?
Good, good. As I've told you, I have a spectator behind me sleeping.
Always good to see. And as I always start, we've heard an awful lot of what has been happening in Spain in relation to the pandemic, but we this side of the world, we haven't heard an awful lot from Portugal. So how is it in Portugal?
The situation in Portugal was well controlled. You know, we have low numbers. We never had a big peak. So they managed to keep the level, you know, how they say, horizontal. But one of the problem was that it's a longer time that we have the disease. You know, we didn't have the peak. But the thing is that we still have some cases, but thank God our hospitals were never you know, in emergency. So everything went pretty well. But we still have, especially nowadays, about 80-90% of the cases are in Lisbon area, and normally in the construction
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
But you know, they are testing, and I hope that they will keep the pandemic in control. I think it's okay.
And is business open, or is it?
The business are open. The shopping malls open all over Portugal except Lisbon because of this situation. But they will open next Monday.
Good.
So, but the borders to Spain are still closed.
Yes.
We have the borders to Spain are still closed, and they will open on the 1st of July. Because, you know, we were lucky because, as we only have border with Spain. So all the rest is Atlantic. So the thing was that they closed the border on time. And that was the good thing.
Good. So, Jose, to start off, what was your first breed, and what drew you to the sport of showing dogs?
You know, I was born with dogs here at home. You know, I lived here. This house was given to my mother by my grandfather and I came here to fire my first year. And when I wasn't 1 year old, my grandfather offered me a Estrella Mountain dog. And that was my first dog. Then I had a mean pin when I had, I think, about 7 years old. And my uncles, my mother's sister, was breeding boxers as well.
So very family orientated.
Yeah. So, and they were the ones that were showing dogs, the boxers. That they were showing the boxers, and we always had dogs. And then, you know, in '74, we had a revolution in Portugal. And unfortunately, my parents sent me away because the situation here was a little bit dangerous. We almost had a communist government in Portugal. And they sent me away. And I was living outside Portugal between '75 and '78. And as my uncle was the ambassador in Germany, he got me a job as the second secretary for the Portuguese consulate in West Berlin. So I lived in West Berlin with the wall. With the wall,
yes, of course.
Yeah. And we had the consulate on the first or second floor. I don't remember where it was, in which floor. And downstairs there was a flower shop that had a basset hound. And, you know, I don't know why I always loved bassets. So when I came back to Portugal in the early 80s, I bought a Basset and I start with the Bassets, and that's why I started with Basset hounds. And since then, I always had Bassets, and that's my passion. We have here at home Chihuahuas, smooth Chihuahuas.
Yes.
Smooth Scout Chihuahua, but only for fun. That's my wife's puppies.
So if you hadn't gone into showing dogs, is there another sport you think you would have enjoyed?
Oh yes, for sure, because that was my sport until the revolution. Horses.
Horses.
Yes.
Really.
We had a lot of horses. We had race horses. We had trotters. And, that was my passion since I was 4 years old. I started riding with 4 years old, and that was my sport. Unfortunately, the revolution, broke down everything, the business that we had at the time, and we had to sell everything, and we stopped the horses.
That's amazing how many dog show people will say horses. If they didn't have dogs, it just whatever the attraction is to both, but they seem to go hand in hand together.
Oh yes, and I think that they have so much in common. They are so intelligent, and they are so dedicated to us.
Yes.
And it's crazy. It's crazy. I had horse races, and I was riding them in gallop races and in trotter races, and especially in gallop races, it's so incredible when you're in a race and you're asking the horse to give you everything, and they can understand you, and they will give it to you.
Yes.
If they can, they will give it to you.
As Rita will often say when she's talking about horses, they don't need to.
No.
They could say, no, I'm not going to do this.
Yeah.
But they are fascinating creatures.
Yes. That's beautiful.
And what was your first championship judging appointment, and what was the breed?
So first, this is a funny thing, because my first championship appointment was abroad in France.
Okay.
And it was my first. I started my first breed in 80 by giving CCs in Bassets in 86, I think. And in 89, no, I thought in 80. Yes, that was it. And in 89, I've judged the French Basset Hound Club Championship show, and that was really fun. Because that was my breed, and I had really fun with that judging. And so my first appointment at international level was in France.
Okay. And what was your when did you achieve all breed status?
That was later. That was in 2015.
That's a long time.
Yeah, it took me a long. By one part, it takes a lot. I think you need a lot of experience to become.
Yes. And do you have an exam system in Portugal?
Oh yes, we have an exam. We have exam, and you're taking breed by breed, and then group by group. And another thing that also maybe takes some more time, because my family has a business, a family business, a publishing company, and I was the one responsible for the export. And it's a publishing company, and we publish books to teach Portuguese as a foreign language. And I don't know if you know it, but Portuguese is the third European language most spoken in the world. So there first is English, second Spanish, and then third is Portuguese, because we have, all the old Portuguese colonies, the former Portuguese colonies, and there are more and more people that want to learn Portuguese. So I start that branch at the publishing company, and I was traveling a lot around the world. So I had no time for business, family, wife, dogs, breeding, and showing. But finally, I reached it in 2015.
Mm. And how many countries roughly have you judged in to date?
I just count them today. 45.
That's
45 in the five in all continents.
Mm.
In all continents, 45.
Right.
And it's really nice because there are a lot of differences, and I always say in this a life of dogs, showing, and because I've showed a lot, and I'm still showing my dogs and training my dogs and breeding. You have friends all over the world, and
Yeah.
I'm always saying, if something happens to me, there will be someone that will take care of me.
But I often say too that it is a great sport where you can travel the world, and okay, not unless we don't necessarily see much of the country itself, but we can travel the world and enjoy talking to other people wherever they are about the same sport, the same passion, and it's fascinating.
Oh yes, it's fascinating.
And different perspectives.
Different perspective, different dogs. But I think it's for a judge and also for a breeder. It's so important to see different perspective, different dogs, different breeders, different judges. We are always learning.
Yes, we are. We are. And do you have a favorite country or show particularly that you like to judge at?
I think that the northern countries have beautiful shows, and then they are very organized. They have huge shows, and one of the shows that I like the most to judge, and I've judged there at least 2 times, it's Stockholm show. Stockholm show, it's a beautiful show. The atmosphere, the main ring, it's something incredible. It's so well organized. Everything goes smoothly, and it's really a joy to judge or to watch that ring.
And some superb dogs.
The background, it's always different. There is always something new. There is always a story. The stewards are always dressed on something. It's always a surprise, the Stockholm show.
And as you say, the finale is always spectacular.
Fantastic.
Always look forward to it.
Yeah.
And aside from Bassets, do you have a favorite breed to judge?
Beside of the Bassets, I'm a very hound man.
Okay.
I'm a very hound man. I love to judge Dachshunds. I love to judge Petits and Grands. So I'm hound. I'm hound.
Okay.
It's really that's how do you say, we say in Portuguese, that's my bitch.
Okay. Okay.
That's my bitch. But we need to judge other breeds, and so that's the way it is.
Yes, that's very true. That is very true. And is there a breed you dislike judging?
You're gonna be surprised.
Okay.
I told you in the beginning that I began with shows with my uncles and with boxers, and that's the breeds I feel more uncomfortable to judge.
Okay.
It's I think that when you judge, you must feel the breed.
Yes.
You must. It's not only read the standards. You must feel the breed and really think about. And that's one of the breeds that I have more difficult to feel.
Yeah, I think a lot of judges have a breed like that. Tibetan Spaniels is mine.
Yeah.
No matter, and again, you read the standard, but
yeah,
I just don't. It's one of those breeds I just don't see.
Yeah.
And is there a particular fault that you dislike?
Oh yes, one of the I think two main things. I think one is temperament. Very very shy or very aggressive dogs. I think that a dog must have a with the specific temperament of the breed, but not a shy or not extremely shy, or dog can be reserved like the Azawaks, and
Yes.
be more energetic like the Rottweilers or like the Boxers. But that's one of the things, and another thing is movement.
Okay.
I think that a dog must have a good movement. Even when we are talking about, and many people say, "Oh, this is a head breed." Okay, but you can have a head breed, but a dog must be well built.
Absolutely.
And even sometimes people are talking a lot about rough collies.
Mm-hmm.
And now, the heads. But I think these are sheepdogs.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll go and I have a beautiful head, but I say they go away and come down and they cross like crazy. Mm. And I say, not for me, sorry. And that's the way it is. And that's
and you probably know this debate that goes on all the time about type versus construction.
Yes.
And where are you on that? What is your feeling?
I'll go for type first. But I could never give put up a dog without type. But movement is also very important for me.
Absolutely. And within your career now judging, is there a particular dog that you've judged, or what is the best dog you've ever judged? Is there one that sticks out?
Last year I was judging in Slovenia, in Celje, and I was judging best in show.
Okay.
And I had a dog that it was really incredible, and that was a Lhasa Apso, showed by Javier Gonzalez from Spain. And everything was perfect on that day. The dog was in immaculate conditions. More or less like always, Javier is showing his dogs. The dogs he's showing, they're always in immaculate condition. The dog was moving beautifully. And the other thing, the connection that I had with the dog when he was on the table, and there is a photo of me looking at him and him looking at me. His eyes were getting into my eyes.
Yeah, I've seen it.
And that kills you. That kills you. And for me, until today, that's the best dog I have judged. And I think it's very, very important when you're judging the best in show that all these small things count. Everything counts, because normally when you reach best in show, you have super dogs. You have 10 super dogs. And then the one who had that click, that's the one that you must pick. That's my opinion.
Yeah. This is difficult, because I was asked this question myself once and I found it quite difficult. Is there a dog that you've seen or you've known its reputation that you've never had your hands on that you would have loved to have judged?
When you send me that question, I had no doubts.
Okay.
And you know why? Because there is a dog and there is a basset hound. And bred in the United States, Topsfield bumper cars.
Okay.
That dog, has been always my dream basset. And I tried to use that dog semen on one of my bitches. I travel all the way from Portugal to the States to the best insemination vet hospital to do an insemination, and the breeder is the Topsfield Kennels by Claudia Orlandi, because Claudia was always, crazy, was also crazy about my bitch, and she was saying, José, we need to do this, and I was crazy, the day the bitch was followed for a long time before she became in season. The day she became in season, I took the plane to Charlotte in the United States. From Portugal, I went to Munich, from Munich to Charlotte. I left the bitch over there for, I think, 15 days. They made, the semen was sent from Vermont to Charlotte. Everything went smoothly, but result, 0, and a lot of dollars out of the pocket.
Oh dear.
And I always say that's breeder's life.
Yes. That was a long way to go for that.
Oh yes.
Yeah, it's funny you should pick your own breed, because this is also true of myself, because the one dog that I would have loved to have judged but never did was an American Cocker Spaniel, again bred in the States, but was long dead before I started judging. But they were beautiful, Dreamridge American Cockers, and they were fabulous. And like you, my own breed, I would have loved to judge. Yeah.
And my lines are a mix between, because I started, but I start breeding, and then all of a sudden I stopped those lines because I said I don't like this, I don't like the movement, I don't like this. I start all over again. And I start with European lines, with a bitch from France, and with a dog that I imported from the United States. And by that time, I was very criticized especially by the French, because they were saying, "Oh, José imported the dog from America. These dogs don't hunt, and they are not working dogs, and this and that." And the funny thing is that I made a leader, and I offered one of the bitches to a friend of mine in France, to a breeder in France. And that bitch was the first one to become beauty and working champion.
Wow. That's a good achievement.
And genetically, they have that in their head. So.
And it was very brave of you to say, okay, this is not working, so we're going to start all over again. Because a lot of breeders won't do that, and they just continue on trying, and it just makes the problems even worse.
Oh yes. When you get into a line that you don't like, and there are some problems, and I always say, when you're a breeder, the main thing, you must be humbled.
Yes.
And you must, recognize and admit your dog's faults. Otherwise, you will not reach a good level.
Yes, that's quite true.
And I always say, because it's not very difficult to reach a high level sometimes. The problem is to reach it and to stay there.
Yeah.
That's the problem, and that's the challenge.
Yes. So, your biggest judging achievement to date?
Oh, I think that was this year. Bassets at Crufts.
Yeah.
For a breeder, I think that, for an English breeder, to judge Bassets at Crufts, I think that's a cherry on the cake. I already judged twice the club show, the Basset Club show in England, in the United Kingdom. But Crufts, it's Crufts.
It's the pinnacle, yeah. And interesting you should mention Crufts, because somebody has asked now on Facebook that Bassets, when they win Best of Breed of Crufts, have to undergo a health test or a veterinary check. And if your Best of Breed was not allowed into the group, would that seriously annoy you? Or?
Oh yes, of course, because one of the reasons my Bassets are winning quite consistently is because they are sportive dogs, and I always bred dogs that are good movers, not exaggerated, and I think that's the main thing. And I also was very proud because the Basset I sent this year to the main ring was third in group. It was the second time, I think, that a Basset was placed in the big ring. And it's not for me, but it's for our breed, for the Basset. It's very important that to have a dog placed in the main ring of crafts. That's really, and after, especially for the Bassets that, as you know, were on the lists.
Yes.
To be now as one of the winning dogs at the main ring at Crafts, I think it's really nice for the breed, and I was very proud of it. And I thank also the group judge for that.
That was a great achievement. So, what's your most embarrassing or funny moment while judging?
I think embarrassing. I don't remember, but I have a very funny. I was judging Dachshunds. Why I had standard Dachshunds in France. I don't remember the show, but this is a funny story. And all of a sudden came a class, and I saw an old lady, dressed in hunter with a cast, and put the dog on the table. The dog was not at all trimmed and not in good conditions. And she started, oh, my dog won CEC under Monsieur Noncer. My dog won this under Monsieur Tonton. My dog won CEC à Paris. And then, in the end, I move her up and down and this and that. I give a very good. And I say, very good man. And he said, oh, no way. My dog won everything under this monsieur and this monsieur, but not under Monsieur de Mello. No. Oh, no, it's not possible. It's not possible. I'm not getting out of the ring. Said, okay, so sit down there. There is a chair. Please sit. And she sat down and she stayed there until she was fed up. And then she went away.
Brilliant.
And that was, I always remember this because, the lady was, so, she was not unpolite, but she was furious with me. And I was saying, no, not with me. And she had to sit because my steward was telling me, do you want me to call the delegates? She said, no, don't worry. Let the lady be seated there. She will fail it. She was going to be, and she will go away.
So, you alluded earlier that you are a second generation in showing dogs, but aside from your parents or your family, who inspired you the most when you started showing or judging?
Okay, I have two persons that I really admire. One is the one that helped me a lot in my breed. Is Jacques Médard. Jacques Médard was the president of the Basset Town Club of France, and he helped me a lot. He was the one who offered me my first bitch when I started these new lines.
Right.
And he presently, I think, is the treasurer of the French Kennel Club. And Jacques Médard was really, he helped me a lot. We are very close friends. And when you talk about judges, I think and I admire a lot, Rainer Vorinen, and I always remember once I was judging in Finland, and I was having dinner the day before with him, and I was judging Salukis the next day. And as you know, Salukis in Finland used to be beautiful.
Yes.
And then I've told Rainer, so Rainer, I'm judging Salukis tomorrow, but they say that the Salukis are not as good as they were before in Finland. What do you think? Oh, I don't know, and this and that. He didn't want to say anything.
Okay.
So the next day, I went to my ring. I was judging, and then when I started to judge Salukis, I look out around the ring, and Rainer was seated there, looking at my judging. And I judged Salukis. and I had fun. And I said, well, it's not so true. They still have very nice Sadukis.
Mm-hmm.
And then he came to me and he told me, you know, José, good work. You see, we still have some nice ones. And, you know, I admire him for the way he is in the ring, for the way he moves, for the way he looks at the dogs.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that he has, you know, I like him very much.
Mm. Okay. And now, as all breeds judges, very often we can get a lot of dogs to judge, and mostly they're with critiques. So when you have a exhibitor or an exhibit who comes into the ring and they may be very nervous, or the dog is nervous, how do you approach that?
I think that you know, in our sports we need more and more to captivate people to our sport.
Mm.
So we all had our first day, we all had our first time.
Yes.
So we need to help the novice people to the sport. So I'm always very patient with the people that I see that are novice, and especially I'm always very patient with puppies.
Yes.
Because, you know, I also show my dogs, and I think that you can ruin a dog if a puppy has a problem in the ring. So I'm very, very careful with puppies. When sometimes, you know, even, you know, I pick up the treats and I'll give them, and I touch them and this and that. But I think that we must pay a lot of attention to both dogs and exhibits. You know, we have to protect our sport, and that's one of the ways that we protect our sport, and that we have more people in our sport.
I think you make a very good point there, and I think some judges don't realize that this may be the puppy's very first show, and they tend to want them to stand like veterans on the table, and they don't give them the time. And very often, the first time a puppy's been on the table before is when it's been at the vet. So it probably thinks the judge is about to come along and give it an injection.
Oh, yeah.
I think you make a very good point that we do, as judges, need to give these puppies time, and the exhibitors. And just leading on from that, just when you're judging professional handlers, I didn't give you this question, but I just thought of it.
No way, no, you can. No problem.
When you're judging, when you have handlers in the ring, do you find yourself being slightly harder on them?
No, I don't think so. I don't think, you know, one of the things that I'm very keen is that even a professional handler must be smooth for their dogs. You know, if I have someone being hard to a dog in my ring, you know, that's not a good thing for me. You know, even, you know, if a dog is not behaving well and he's a little bit harder with the dog, that disturbs me a bit. But you know, I think that's okay. You know, I'm not so. You know, for me the main thing is the dog. For me the main thing is the dog. If the dog, and you know, dogs are dogs. You know, you don't need them to be statues or perfect. There is no perfect dog. So that's the way it is.
Okay. Okay. So you mentioned earlier that you judge Bassets at Crufts and etc. So as an FCI judge, when you're judging in countries like the UK or the USA, where standards can be slightly different, how do you block out that FCI standard and judge to what they want you to?
Yeah, you know, normally between FCI and the UK, you don't have so many differences. No. And it's very smooth. You know, sometimes the thing is between FCI and especially United States and Canada, And then you must put your chip, but you must read the standard and put your chip on the other side of the Atlantic. And you must follow that. On the other hand, what I really disagree is judging in FCI countries, and you have a lot of dogs with an American type. And in that situation, if I have a nice FCI type, and perhaps in, for instance, in Labradors,
yes,
I will go always to an FCI type than to an American type. And as you know, especially in South America, in China, in the Asia countries, you have a lot of American type. So if I only have American type, what can you do?
You've got to judge what's there.
You have to judge what they give us in the ring. But if I have a nice FCI type, I will put him for sure up.
Just expanding on that just a little bit, because you are all breeds, but you were a Group 8 judge was one of your first groups. Do you not think that perhaps the American type golden retriever should now become almost a separate breed, like they did with the American Cocker Spaniel, where they took the Cocker Spaniel and developed a beautiful flashy dog? So is it time maybe we need to address that?
It's difficult to say, because if you put Goldens, you have to put Springers, English Springers.
Yes. Irish Setters.
Irish Setters. English Setters. What are we doing? And it's difficult. It happened to me. Talking about that, it happened to me. I was judging Melbourne Royal, and I had big class of Irish Setters, and I had a lot of Irish Setters with an American type, as you know, straight in front. The rear, it's 2 kilometers from us.
This is true. Yeah.
And then we have real Irish Setters, and I put up a real one.
Yes, of course. So when you started judging, what was the best piece of advice that was given to you?
I always remember, be honest with you and follow your instincts. And I think it's very important that when you judge, we are humans and we all make mistakes.
Of course.
But you must reach the hotel in the evening or driving home in the evening and be honest with you. You can think, I don't know if I did that, if in that class I put that dog up, I don't know if it was good, it was a good decision, perhaps the second one. You're human, and you need to take a decision under pressure.
Yes.
You need to take the decision on that moment, and sometimes it takes. Sometimes you can have the wrong decision, and but that's the way it is. We are humans, and sometimes we fail. But if you do it honestly,
yes, I think that's all you can ask for.
Yeah.
Because not everybody is going to agree with you. That's, as you say, if dog shows were like that, there'd be no point having dog shows if everybody agreed. So it is. And is that the advice that you would give to people starting off for their first time judging?
Oh yes, yes, I think so. I think mainly that when they start judging, be honest. Go smoothly over the dogs, take the time to. Sometimes it's difficult, but normally when you start, you don't have so many dogs. And then look a lot of other judges.
I think
And
that's
that's
very
so
important.
important. That's I always, I remember. I'll do it for years and years. I'll go in one of the main places to go and to watch judging is crafts.
Mm-hmm.
You have a lot of dogs. You have rings full of dogs, and you can, start. Look at them. You can agree or not agree with them, but look them and make your placement, because when you're there, you cannot touch the dog, but you can look at the dog stand. You can look at the dog moving. You learn, and
I think that's so important.
you learn every time you judge. You learn, and I think that's the most beautiful thing of our sport. You learn every day, every day. I'm always saying here sometimes now, in these times that we're confined at home.
Yes.
And I was looking more at my dogs and my pups, because I was lucky to have a pup, to have a litter on the 7th of February. So I had a lot of talk, a lot to do during the confination, and you look at them and you see and you learn and you see how they move, and you see, because this he's not moving because perhaps the upper arm it's a little bit shorter, or this on that, and this, it's that's the fun part.
Yes.
And that's the interesting part.
And I think you mentioned going to Crufts and watching judges judging and going to other shows. And I think it's also important that while you're watching this judging, that you listen to other people around the ring and their opinions. They won't, again, they'll all be different, but you will, I've always, when I started judging, particularly in American Cockers, go and sit at the side of the ring and just listen.
Listen, and especially.
And ask questions.
Questions, and listen especially, and ask questions to breeders.
Yeah. Yes.
Breeders.
Yes.
Speak with breeders. Speak with breeders, what they think, what they do, what they, that's so important. That's so important to speak with breeders and to know, and to know what the breeders think about the breed and the faults. And it's the way you learn better.
Yes.
It's looking at breeders and visiting breeders, and that's the best way. Not sometimes, I think that our sport has a lot of memory, visual memory.
Mm-hmm.
You can have a standard by heart, but if you don't have a good eye,
yeah, you are so right. You are so right.
Your goal.
And in your opinion, how do we encourage people to stay on in our sport? I think this is a problem that most countries have. There are so many outside distractions now for young people.
I think that young people, and like we were talking before, they are not anymore like we are. We used to be, because we used to learn with breeders. We used to speak with breeders. And nowadays, a lot of young people that we meet, they know everything. Yes. They want to win everything from one day to another.
Yeah.
And I think that we must teach them to know how they learn, how they, it's because these sports, and it's funny, it's passionate, but it's very difficult. It's really,
you're right.
And that's why it takes you much more years to become an all-round judge than to become a lawyer. Or to become
valid point.
So I think that we must tell the young people this is a passion that's beautiful, our sport, but it takes a long time. So they must be patient. They must be patient, and they must. And we still have young people that are coming, but they are not as much as they should be.
No, and you're right. I think a lot of newcomers just want instant winning from the time they enter a show ring, and it doesn't work like that.
No, it doesn't work.
It doesn't.
It doesn't.
It took me a long time to get my first best to breed.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but you know, it happens eventually. And critiquing. How do you approach critiquing dogs, and do you see them valuable?
I think so. I think that critiques are the guidelines for breeding. You know, we are judges, and that's why we must pay a lot of attention when we are giving our critiques. It's because we are telling the breeders and the exhibitors which ones are the ones that they must follow.
Yes.
So I think it's very important, and I think that all the judges must be very honest when they do critiques. And you know, sometimes we have, and I also had here judging our Basset Club show, and once we had an English judge, a judge from the UK, and he came and he said, you need to do the critiques, and oh, but and the faults, he said, of course you can. You need to. You need to say the fault. Just say what you think about the dogs, the good things and the bad things, and that's the way it is. And we are used to. You know, it's we are very used to. And if you're a good breeder and if you know your dog, you must recognize it if it's true, because sometimes judges, as I've told you, can make a mistake. Normally in construction and in, you know, but normally critiques. I'm a very fond of critiques.
Okay, and for people who haven't maybe done critiques before or are going to be doing them for the first time, how would you tell them to approach it?
You know, I always do my critiques when I'm going over the dogs, because sometimes it's difficult that you memorize. Sometimes you are judging the dog, and when a lot of judges like to do the critiques after judging the dog. You know, go over the dog up and down, and then stop, and they start to do the critique. And I don't normally, if I have a good steward, I don't do it like that.
Okay.
Is next to me, and when I'm going over the dog, I'm dictating the critique, and I think that's the best way to go on, because you're not forgetting anything, you know. And sometimes, you know, and I think that was something that I learned with the Bassets, because as a Basset judge, you know, we have a lot, and you know, we have a breed. I have a breed with smooth coat, but you need to put your hands over to feel rib cages, to feel skulls, to feel ears textures, to feel tails. So
and I think it's important as well, and some judges don't. I think it's always important that if you're going to give a lower grade, that you say why.
Oh yeah.
That when you're going to give a lower grade, like a very good, that you say why. Tell them why.
Of course.
But you know, some judges won't, and then they give a very good, and you're thinking, well, why?
Yeah, and you know, I'm totally agree. If we give a lower grade, you know, there must be a reason.
Yes.
You know, I cannot accept an excellent report and then a very good. Why? All the report is okay. Excellent this, excellent that, very good.
Yeah. And these people have paid a lot of money for your opinion.
They must have your opinion.
Right or wrong, give it.
You know, as you know, in the UK, you need to do the reports for the first 3 dogs. And sometimes I look the reports on the newspapers, and they are all good.
It's very
When I
easy.
do my reports, and if you go and look at my reports for the Bassett's at Crufts, you're gonna see a difference between the first, the second, and the third.
Yeah, yeah, that's very fair. And do you think judges these days, and particularly all rounders, do you think they understand the important role they have in influencing the development of breeds?
Yeah.
Or do you think they have a role in the development
Oh,
of
they
breeds?
have, for sure, for sure, for sure. And that's why I was saying you must be very honest when you're judging, because all our decisions are influencing the breeds. And more we must pay a lot of attention, because I'm telling this a lot of times. We are being attacked, our sport is being attacked a lot, like never before. And we must tell the people the reasons why we have pedigree dogs. And it's really very, very important, the decisions we take, and it's very important, in my opinion.
And that brings me on to the next question, which you've just slightly touched on. As a breeder and a judge, how do you think we can protect our sport from the pressure that we are particularly under from governments and other outside organizations? And we all know, because we've touched on it now every week, the situation in Holland with the brachycephalic breeds, etc.
We must, I think the breeds were given to us by our ancestors.
Yes.
And they were breeds, they all had a certain purpose. So main thing, to breed healthy dogs.
Mm-hmm.
Make everything to breed healthy dogs, and it's more and more with all the helps, scientific helps that we have nowadays. It's not all the tests that we do, so make everything. And then one of the things that I think that we need to explain to the general public is that every breed has a proposal. And if we don't have pedigree dogs, we will not have guide dogs for blind people. We will not have rescue dogs. We will not have dogs that can sniff, as they are studying now, coronavirus, because they say that normally in September they will have dogs in the UK that can detect coronavirus. We have the diabetic people at the moment as well. With Portuguese, we have the Portuguese water dogs as well that are trained to detect diabetes.
That is a very valid point.
So we need to explain the public. Listen. If we don't, I have nothing against crossbreed dogs. Nothing against it. But we must preserve our dogs and our breeds, because they were left to us by our ancestors. They were built with a proposal, and we have the right to keep those lines and those proposals. And they are helping us. Dogs are helping our lives.
Very much so.
Senses, and more and more and more and more. Every day, we are watching, and the other day I put on my Facebook some hounds that were trained to guard rhinos in South Africa.
Yes.
And they already saved 42 rhinos to be killed.
Yeah, it is amazing. Yeah. And that's the sort of message we need to get out there to the public. It's difficult though.
Oh, it's difficult, but we need lobby. We need to make a lot, because that's the way our enemies.
Yes, well, you were right.
Yes, they are attacking us. We must also have our guns and our arms, and that's, I think, peaceful but effective.
And where do you see our sport in 10 years' time?
That all depends. That all depends on the way we are acting at the moment, because everything, we touch more or less the basis of our future, the future of our sport. We need to promote our sport. We need to bring a lot of young people to our sport. We need to to make a lot of lobby with our sport, and we need to promote our leagues. We must, when sometimes I can see, because I'll judge a lot all over. Sometimes the best in shows, we have the judges and the exhibitors. And for instance, you need to make everything, all the efforts to have a full main ring for best in show, so people can see the dog in the end, the spectacle. Because for the general public, sometimes it's not very interesting to see a judge breed. But it's fun. It's fun to judge to see a group or to see a best in show.
Yes.
So all these things, we must to promote our sport. We must to promote our sport and to bring more people, because that's the way also we bring new exhibitors.
Yes.
If someone goes to a show and likes, he will bring his dog the next time.
And it will need money to do that.
I think so.
And the kennel clubs, I've said this time and time again, the kennel clubs need to start putting money into that and promoting.
I think so. I think that the kennels club needs to promote. Otherwise, listen, if they don't invest, they will be bankrupt.
Yes. Yes.
Because if they don't invest in pedigree dogs, and then don't invest in the sport, in a few years, people will not breed dogs.
Yeah.
Will not register dogs. From where comes the money for the kennel clubs? From the register, from the shows. And if more and more you will start to have those crazy crossbreeds with Amstaff and bulldogs, and then they sell that for 6,000 euros, 10,000 euros, and I think that we must, and the kennel clubs must invest, and that's an investment. That's not spending money. That's investment.
Right. That's investment in the future.
That's an investment. And I was, as I've told you, my family had and has a publishing company, and I was working there as a lot during more than 40 years. And I was the director of one of the departments. And you must think of our sport. It's a business.
Yeah.
You invest to have something to come from.
You're quite right. You're quite right. Okay, so final question.
Yes.
You travel the world a lot. You're in lockdown right now.
Yeah.
So you're not traveling anywhere.
No.
Do you miss it?
Oh yes, I miss it, because Colin, as I've told you, I was the director for export in my companies. I was all my life. I was traveling all over the world. All over the world. I was always, coming back, 2 days at home, pack again, go away, and this and that. So I had business, showing, judging. So I miss it. I miss it. Because, but I'll feel good at home, because I have, as I've told you, I have always, because since I retired I retired last year in June.
Okay.
And I reduced the number of dogs because I used to have an employee only for the dogs.
Right.
But as I retired, I said, no, I'm going to reduce the dogs, and I'm going to. I don't have any more the kennel
Spend
boys.
more time. Yeah.
The kennel boys. I have a lot of things to do, and I love, if someone was asking me, okay, you need to decide, judge or breeder, I would say breeder.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'll wake up every morning, I'll come down, because all my dogs, they live at home. We are here at the ground floor. Here it's my office. There is always a dog with me here. Normally it's this one. Couch.
Who's very active, I can see.
Oh, yes. And then I'll feed them. And then I'll go. And then we have a maid, so she helps me to clean everything. Then I have my breakfast. I look at the news. I have my newspaper. So I didn't fill up too much the lockdown, but I miss traveling. Yes, that's true.
Well, Jose, it's been fascinating.
Thank you very much. It was
Thank you
really
very much for joining us.
It was really a pleasure.
And I hope you and yours will stay safe. And we will see you somewhere in the world.
Yes.
Shortly.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Good night.
Bye-bye. Good night. Thank you.